Welcome to Veteran Resource Podcast, where you will meet nonprofit organizations focused on improving the lives of veterans and their family members. Here is your host, Jeremy Paris.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 25 of the Veteran Resource Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Paris, and today's guest is Jon Jackson with Stag VETS. Jon gets vulnerable at times during this interview. He really talks to us about some of the struggles that he has had, but he also gets into the amazing things that came from it and what he's doing to help so many more veterans. And there's a lot of information that you're going to want to check out in the show notes so that you can get over to the Kickstarter campaign that he has going on. And I really think you're going to enjoy this episode, and I really think that you're going to like what Stag VETS is doing. So before we get into that, though, let's read off a couple more of the reviews that came in. We've got one from Pam Moore at Social Zoom Factor who said, "Good resource for veterans. Love seeing shows like this. Keep up the amazing work." And Thriving Entrepreneur says, "Let people thank you for their service. We appreciate what our veterans have done for us, and I'm so thankful that the show can be a resource for them, even as a small thank you for all that they have done." Johnny Kings says, "Jeremy's show is important and shows the power of podcasting. The information that he gives on the show connected to veteran resources is just amazing. I highly recommend the show." Thank you so much for the reviews. And if you have not left a review yet, I invite you to go to veteranpodcast.com/iTunes, where you can listen to all of the episodes, any episodes that you might have missed. And you can also leave a rating and a review, which will help to push this up in the ratings and help people to find it, help get the word out to more veterans that can be helped through some of these organizations that are highlighted each week. Jon Jackson founded Stag VETS Inc. in 2014 to assist homeless veterans, veterans in need, and veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury. Jon earned his stripes by serving his country with the elite 75th Ranger Regiment. While serving, Jon endured 6 deployments with a combined total of 40 months of combat time in his first 8 years of service. While overseas, Jon provided direct support to multidisciplinary special operations teams spread across austere environments. His can-do-anything attitude was essential for him to thrive in an environment where critical decisions needed to be made and had a positive impact on every mission. For his actions, Jon was awarded numerous awards and decorations to include the Bronze Star for exceptional cross-continental management skills that resulted in the kill and capture of high-value enemy targets. Although Jon achieved so much as a U.S. Army Airborne Ranger, the extensive combat deployments paid its price. In January 2013, Jon was diagnosed with traumatic brain injury due to multiple blasts from IEDs and chronic post-traumatic stress. Due to his health and family being more important to him, Jon made the hard decision and sacrifice to medically retire from the 75th Ranger Regiment. Saddened by his ordeal, Jon decided that he was not going to let PTSD and TBI determine his future, nor will he let these injuries define the thousands of vets who are suffering with no assistance. With his knowledge, exceptional leadership skills, and drive to take care of others, Jon created Stag VETS Inc. to reintegrate homeless vets, vets suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury, receive the care that they deserve, and use sustainable farming as a tool to build communities and instill a sense of pride into the team of vets that are working through this program. All right, this is a great episode. Let's jump right into it. Jon, welcome to the Veteran Resource Podcast. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing, Jay?
I'm doing great. So I wanted to get started by having you give kind of just a brief description of what Stag VETS is.
Stag VETS is a sustainable farming project that provides treatment, culinary skills, agricultural job training, and placement for veterans who are homeless, in need, or suffering from post-traumatic stress and other invisible wounds.
Excellent. And I'm looking forward to diving into that a lot more. But before we do that, I wanted to get a little bit of background on who you are. So you were telling me earlier that you are in Georgia. Is that correct?
Right, correct.
And is that where you're from?
No, I'm not from Georgia originally. I'm from Jersey City, born and raised up there. But ironically, my dad, he was from LaGrange, Georgia, which is right up the road. So
Hmm.
I'm a city boy, but I got a lot of country heart in me. And it was interesting because, a lot of my friends would always tell me I was born in the wrong time. So I get that a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Did you have any military ties growing up?
No, I didn't. No, actually, my parents weren't in the military. My grandfather, however, used to work for the Air Force in Africa under British rule. He's from Sierra Leone. My
Oh,
mom is
wow.
African. Yeah, so he was a true gentleman in a lot of aspects, and he did talk to me about some British Air Force type stuff that he did while being raised.
That's pretty interesting.
Yes.
So, what made you decide to go into the military?
Well, two reasons. 9/11, being born in Jersey City, I lived on Garfield, which was Garfield Avenue, if you know that place, right across from the Statue of Liberty. So as a young kid, I saw the Twin Towers every day of my life waking up. That was my view. And
Wow.
9/11 happened, and me and my wife at the time were going through a rough time in our marriage. Our marriage dissolved, and I just thought, what better way to take this change and just go ahead and serve my country.
It's outstanding. And you had quite the career, I was reading.
Oh yes, I started off. I started off. This my first duty assignment was Fort Benning, Georgia, and I was with the 115 Infantry for Third ID, and I did two tours with them. One 13-month, one 15-month tours, 15-month tour, and after that 15-month tour, I kind of hurt my feelings being over there for that long a period of time. I remarried at that time. I was with my wife at the time, and she bore the full brunt of what the being in the military can cause to a caregiver. But what I decided to do was I said I'm going to become a ranger, and that's what I did. I went and I became a ranger. One, it gave me stability where I would be here, so that way she could work. But it also increased my time with operations and doing things, which I really love. So I ended up doing four more tours with the Ranger Regiment, and on my sixth tour, I remember coming back off a mission, and like I would do, I call her up every time, and it was just this one time that I called her up, and she told me over the phone. She said, John, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. Goodbye. And that kind of set the spiral down for me after six combat tours and things like that, and it really hit home.
I bet. I bet. 6 tours. That's a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. I spent a total of 40 months overseas my first 8 years in service. So if you think about that, if I was a ranger the full time, it would have equaled 13 tours. So you know, and that doesn't even count the training. Being away from home. So I understand where a lot of caregivers and a lot of the disconnect comes from with a lot of relationships are broken down because this past decade, military servicemen and women have been through a whole lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so then when you decided to get out, what was the thought process there?
Well, I during this whole process, I was working through, or I was experiencing some things that were not normal. Like I would have like seizures. My head would just continue to spin, dizziness, lights, headaches. Yeah, lights would give me headaches. My memory problem, my memory was just completely lost. My short term memory, all this type of stuff was happening while I was a ranger and working through. doing what I had to do. I never got treatment. I asked for treatment in the military. I never got the treatment that I needed. As a result, one of my doctors decided, he said, you need to go check for TBI. And I didn't even know what that was. And they sent me to the TBI, get a neurological test, neuropsych. And they pretty much said, you know what, how are you even standing here smiling at me? Like, you're in the 19th percentile, you're bad, you know?
Oh, wow.
So it was a huge blow to me, Jay, because, being a Ranger, weakness is not a issue. That's not even a question. You push on and you continue to push on. And as a result of that, by me having these memory issues and all these other neurological issues, there was two things that was going to happen. I was either going to fail at my job or be super efficient. And so what happened was I would do things, make sure, like, I never procrastinated. If someone asked me to do something, I would do it. But then if they came back and asked me about if I did it, I would not even know what they're talking about. And then I would go back and I'll write it down, what they're talking about. Then I'll go back to my computer and I'll look at it. And then I'll see that, I had an email thread where I sent something or I did something, and, those type of things. So I was super efficient with my work, because I had to be, because if I wasn't, I was going to fail. So that kind of forced me to, work in areas, or it caused a lot of stress in my life, and
Right.
as my doctors start talking to me, they in my first sergeant and all of them, they started saying, hey man, you're 9, 10 years right now. You think you got 10 more years in you? And I'm like, there's no way. I mean, I've done 6 deployments and I've destroyed my back and everything else. And it's just like, I don't have 10 more years in me. And that sent me down I became so depressed, extremely depressed, you know?
Right, right. I mean, you've had that pretty distinguished career
Yeah.
for 10 years, and knowing that you're at that halfway point and
Yeah.
realizing that, just not going to be able to make it, that's got to be tough.
Yeah. It's really, really tough, because for me, it was either die or retire with full honors at the end of my 20-year mark, So
Mhm.
I didn't see any other way. I didn't see any other way out, and now I was being, the Ranger Regiment was really great. I mean, they wanted to create a job for me, or an environment for me where I didn't have to deploy, and that was good. But then, I started talking to more of my mentors and folks who I really, really appreciated in the Army, who gave me some amazing advice throughout my career. And they said, John, your best years in the military are behind you, and now you got to go take care of your family. And to be honest with you, Jerry, I didn't know what taking care of my family was. I mean,
Right.
I start looking at all that stuff, and I'm like, man, family, like, I want to go back deploy. It's like, it's easier deploying than it is being at home. And so
Yeah.
I totally understand it, man.
And so the transition and the way that you were feeling and everything, this was what eventually had you decide to start up the Stag VETS. Is that correct?
Yes, throughout my presentations, I talk to a lot of folks, and a lot of people, I tell them my story, but what really got me going was I hit that state of depression, and I was sitting here at the same desk that I'm talking to you at, and I was looking out the window and I was watching my last sunset, and and I had my hand on my gun, and I knew that that was my last sunset, because I was dealing with so much pain prior to that. It was like, I'm done. This is stupid. Life is stupid. Like, I was rationalizing that, you know, and I tell a lot of people that one thing you got to understand about someone who commits suicide is the state that they're in before they do it. For a lot of guys, I would say, even for myself, it's absolutely euphoric. It's probably the most peace that I've been in my whole entire military career. And it's one of those things that I felt like I needed a snapshot of it, and I didn't want to go, I didn't want to leave. I didn't want it to go, because had I start dealing with real life and all the other issues that no one understands me, I would that's much harder. So coming to the point that things were going to be okay and that my family would be okay and all this other things would be okay, really put me in a state of mind that I would be okay, and I felt comfortable with that. And I was rationalizing this, as the sun was setting over the trees, and I just knew, like, that's it. And my son happened to walk in on me, and he just said, just clueless, "Hey, Dad, you gonna go out? Let's go out to eat." Um, and I said, and I kind of what am I doing? What's going on? And I was just overwhelmed with a lot of emotion. I put my gun down. I just went out and I took him out to eat. We went to B Dubs, and we sat down and we ate, and I was just staring at him, and I just saw, how amazing my boy was. And then I started thinking about, what he would have saw. And I didn't play the tape all the way through. So
Right.
the reason why I tell you that, and why I tell most people that, is because I'm not in a better place now, but I think it's important that as we start to learn more about PTSD and we start to learn more about TBI, we really start to understand about the vulnerabilities that veterans are going through, and how do we create systems to absorb that? Because right now there's no place to absorb those emotions that a veteran needs to let go of in order for him to be better. If that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I can't imagine, I've never been to that point before.
Right.
And I've never been in combat before, but you kind of going through that and explaining how it was that you were feeling, and that really kind of brings a lot of reality to it. And,
Yeah.
and
Jay, I tell people that, like, for me, I was never I was never troubled about, killing someone, or if it was a kid or a woman. Those things didn't trouble me. What troubled me was the fact that I didn't care about it. That's what troubled me. And
mm,
before I joined the military, those things were shocking. They were provocative. You know, those things, they make you cringe. But then when you're in that environment so much, you know, like for myself and like a lot of, I work with a guy, Michael Streeter. He is on Stag's team, and he's leading up our holistic, care for this. And one of the things that Mike said, he said, because he's a pre 9/11 vet, and he said, John, you got to help me understand, like, the younger generation of guys. He goes, why do you guys look at all those, like, beheading films and all those things? And I said, and the first thing that I told him, I said, it's like watching the football tapes, Mike. And he
wow.
said, what do you mean about that? I said, yeah, that's, when I came home and I saw my wife, she would go to sleep, and the first thing I would do, get on the computer, and I look at all the beheadings and all the stuff that I had on my SD card and everything like that, and I look at all those things that I had from deployment over and over and over again to keep my mind right. Because coming back home was just temporary for me. It was just like, my real home was overseas, and that's what I'm going back to. And so you need to understand that, the moment you get complacent and think that you're fine is the moment that you'll be on freaking Al Jazeera with dudes gonna chop your head off.
Right.
And so
Right.
if you don't have that mindset that this is the worst thing that can happen to me and that you can deal with it, that's that. And I desensitized myself to it. And that's what bothered me, because when I saw the things that I saw and I did the things that I did, it didn't bother me. And I was bothered by the fact that I wasn't bothered by those things.
Hmm. Well, one of the other things that I pulled from your story was that had you have gone through the suicide like so many others have, like the very next step in your evolution right now is that you started Stag Vets, and you're
Yeah.
going to be helping so
Right.
many people.
Right.
And you know you would have been that wouldn't have been happening, had your son not walked in that night.
Had
um
he not walked in that night, I tell you, Jay, it was just a I look back at it now, and it every single time I talk about it, it brings me to tears. For one, I think about him, like what type of trauma he would have had for the rest of his life. But for
right.
two, what type of purpose I created for myself, and how many people I'm going to help as a result of you know um, me not pulling the trigger by him
Ex-
walking in that room.
exactly. So if there's anybody else that's out there and they're thinking that it's not going to get any better, it's
Yeah,
possible it will. It's possible to get a lot better, and it's
yeah,
possible that what you have left in your life to do could be
right.
helping many, many other people.
And that's
And
my and that's has been STAG is the acronym for Strength to Achieve Greatness. And so it's everything I learned as a ranger, everything I learned as a soldier from basic training onward. And it's just not being in the military, it's in life in general. You know, most of us have experienced some point where we just feel like we can't do it anymore. We're done. And, I was at that point. And it's like you don't have anything left in the tank. You got to find it from somewhere, and you have to create it. And I feel as though that with Stag, it's more of it's just not a word. It is a way of life. It
mm,
is everything that we do. And the people that I want to help are people who are much like me, who are at that point where they just felt like, I can't do anything anymore. But we're not giving handouts. It's you're going to find that warm coal that needs to be, covered,
mhm.
and we're going to ignite it. And when we ignite it, that desire in you starts to burn, we're going to throw gasoline on it and and let you go. Stag is about empowering people, not keeping them in the same spot. And so that's why I created that organization, because I totally believe in that at some point we got to find, the strength to achieve greatness, to do what it is that we want to do. Every single last one of us can do that.
And speaking of that, John, let's kind of get into a little bit more about what programs Stag has going on.
Well, right now I run a secret Facebook group for veterans are not who don't want to go to the psych, who don't trust the VA, who can't talk to their wives or their families. We and at first we decided that it would just be for the guys or just for the veterans, and then Mike and myself we started talking, and we said, if the guys are just talking amongst themselves, it's kind of like a feeding frenzy of like, piranhas and things like that. We're feeding off each other's fears and, saying, yeah, this, that, and the other thing. And I told him, I said, I think it would be wise if we allowed, our women in our life in here. And for two things. One, it's to let the wife know that her husband isn't the only crazy one. That because most of these wives are thinking like, this dude is out of his mind. Why am I the only one that's dealing with this? And so what we
Mhm.
found out by allowing these wives in to hear stories of what other men are going through, it helps them in their relationship with dealing with their husbands. And secondly, too, it helps the husbands understand how they need to communicate with their wife. And that is the most important thing that what we're doing now, since we don't have any physical space, is being able to mitigate and use our resources and to connect people to what they need to go, what they need to do. I work 24 hours a day. I get calls all the time, and I'm helping people all over the country, from homelessness to suicide to everything. And we don't even have a place yet. And I'm being called, and I'm making it happen, connecting with the right people to take care of these guys.
You said that you were helping homeless. I'd like to hear more about what your plans are for that in the future.
Okay, so what Stag's overall plan is to create a warrior healing center in culinary arts and sustainable farming campus. And what we plan on doing with this center is to take homeless vets, veterans who are displaced, veterans who are functional, who are functional, who are working, but they feel like they just don't fit in. Provide a place for them where they can come in, and we can give them what I like to call the ramp down. And this is probably one of the areas where Stag is going to be extremely revolutionary in, is because if you think about it, Jay, most guys or guys and girls, just soldiers and Marines and whoever, military personnel, they go to the military, they join basic training, and it's conditioning every single day, muscle memory, ramping up to become that soldier, that Marine, that corpsman, whoever they are going to be. And then they go to their AIT, which is their, advanced individual training. And then they learn their skill, but they're still getting, the indoctrination of the military life. And then they go to their unit, and they do all the things that they've learned from their AIT and basic training. It becomes a part of their life. And that's how a soldier is born, a Marine is born, a Ranger is born, and you name it. But at day one, when that person becomes a veteran, it's automatically assumed that they're supposed to be a civilian again. There's no transition. There's a transition from civilian to soldier, Marine, Navyman, Ranger, special operations. There's a transition to go to that point, but there's no transition to come out of that point. And so the folks that get paid the big bucks are wondering, why we have so many homelessness. Why are so many guys killing themselves? Well, it's because there is nothing in place where a veteran can ramp down.
Right.
And that's what Stag is going to create. Stag is going to create, in its first phase of its program, we're going to create a system where veterans who are having these issues, they can ramp down. It's not going to take 5 days. It's not going to take 10 days. We're looking at a 3-month course where veterans are immersed in holistic care, not this pill, cattle fed. Hey, if you got an issue, if you have anxiety, then you're going to get what the other 2 million people are getting. We're talking individualized care where a veteran is learning, wellness, mindfulness, learning, doing yoga, doing deep breathing, becoming more in tune with him or herself. Who that veteran is now is much different than who he was when he joined the military. And our therapy is the common therapy is saying that, hey, you know what? We're going to get you to back how you used to be. That's false. That's not how it's supposed to be. I will never be the same John Jackson that I was before I joined the military. That guy had virgin eyes. He didn't see all the stuff that went on. He didn't do all those things. So why would you expect me to be like that?
Totally agree.
Yeah. And so what I'm saying is, instead of telling the veteran, you're going to be that way, what we tell them is that, kind of like that caterpillar who was crunch, munch, and destroy, now he's in a cocoon, which most veterans are right now they're like, in a cocoon phase of their life where they're in the funk, like that caterpillar. But with what we're doing with Stag's program, we're going to change you into something better than what you were before. The skills that you learn as in the Army, those are useful skills. We're going to put those to
Absolutely.
use. Your PTSD that everyone says is just, so scary. Well, guess what? You know what? If I dropped you in the middle of Jurassic Park, you wouldn't be able to sleep a regular night after you came home. It's just one of those things, and what we're trying to do is just kind of say, veteran, we understand you. We are there. I am a part of you. And that's what I'm telling the veteran community, especially a lot of the guys who are out there who are hurting right now, that I'm not here looking down at you. I'm here looking at you eye level because I go through the same issues. I am creating our own change. I'm building a bridge for my health because I know what I need, what I'm not getting. And that's what Stag is going to do.
That's great. And I saw that you had a land search going on. I think that this is kind of part of your master plan as well. Can you tell me what it is you're looking for?
Oh, yes. Right now, what I've been doing is poison the social media and talking to them about a project that we got going on the actual inception of the creation of Stag. Our plan, our model of what we're going to do. We want to infuse it into society, and I need the help of people. The grassroots. Privately funded because they're pissed off the way the veteran situation is going. And what I'm doing is I'm raising money, $3.5 million I am raising to centralize my team and to also build a pre-assessment farm that's going to be equipped with an agribusiness. So that way we can take veterans in crisis. While we're working on this, what I'm also going to do is take 10 veterans who are homeless and displaced right now, and I'm going to put them through the program that Stag wants to create across the nation. We're teaming up with Keith Mitchell with the Just Breathe for Vets campaign. He's up in Rochester, New York, working with Ray, who is one of the neuropsychs up there. We're going to send these veterans up to Rochester, New York. It's going to be close to about a 60-day assessment, therapy, the whole wellness program that they're going to get. We're going to start transforming these veterans. Then after they're finished, we're going to bring them back down to Georgia, and I'm going to separate these teams. One is going to go to a chef farmer who's going to teach him everything from soil amendment to veterinary science to learn how to do artisan meats and breads and all those type of things, market distribution.
Oh, wow.
The other group is going to go to another farm where they're going to learn all of the sustainable farming techniques that you would need to for large supply food chains from a local source. They're going to split at the half of the year, and they're going to each group is going to go to the other farm. At the end of the year, they're going to fly back up to Rochester, New York for post evaluation to check their quality of life, how they have taken to what were some of the good points, what were some of the low points, what do they have to adjust through. They're going to get that quality of life check back up in Rochester for a few weeks, and then that is going to be my team that I'm going to use to build a foundation for what we are doing, which is to go into phase one of building our campus, because I'm going to need people who understand what the program is. And those guys, those 10 homeless guys who are on the streets right now, who are in a shelter, they don't know who they are. They have something special coming for them. And that's what I'm asking the community to do for Stag, which is to lead this revolution. And one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to give these veterans a new mission, which is our national food security. And I don't know if you've been following that much or things like that, but when I go on my presentations and I talk to people, right now we got some of our largest food. Some I don't want to name them, but some of our largest food producers who were American owned are now owned by foreign countries. We now ship our food or grow food here. We ship it overseas. They package it, cut it, and then they fly it back here. The government doesn't want to put labels on food or where they come from. In fact, it just came out last week that they said, yeah, we're not going to do that, and we're not going to label if it's GMO or non-GMO. Well, in a world full of choices, how come we cannot choose where our food comes from and whether it's non-GMO or GMO? So what we're saying is, Jeremy, is that I believe that the season is ripe because people want those things. And what we're going to do is give our veterans a new mission, which is to take back our food security. If you're afraid to put a label on your product saying it's from the United States, well, guess what? Stag won't. We're not going to be afraid to, because it's going to be bred here, fed here, grown here, and grown by Americans for Americans. Bottom line. And that's awesome. And that's our mission. That's our mission, and that's our goal. We have our aging farmers right now are aging. They don't have anybody that's replacing them. We have foreign countries coming over here, buying up their farms at dirt cheap prices, growing food here and sending it back to their country. I mean, it's a free market. I got it. But we need our veterans to be sped up, to be taught, to learn from these farmers, and to apprentice under these old farmers, so that way they can go ahead and continue on the tradition that they learn. We shouldn't just be pissing it away, and that's the overall we had to find a mission. Veterans want to do something greater than themselves, and so that's the new mission that we're going to do, which is provide local foods, provide food locally, whole and natural to the community and to the nation. Have a farm in every state. There's 130,000 veterans who are homeless at any given point. There's over 500,000 veterans who have PTSD and TBI. So there's a lot of veterans that are looking for a place and looking for something to be able to do that's greater than themselves.
Jon, I'm loving everything about this. Everything you're saying, I'm loving. This is outstanding.
A lot of work has gone into it. It's just not an overnight thing. I spent a whole year planning with my team and putting together a sound. This is war where we're at right now. That's kind of how I look at it. And it's one of those things where I treat it that way because I'm giving 110% every day on making sure that we're taking care of veterans and we're taking care of Americans.
Awesome. And before we get into the final three questions, Jon, I did want to talk about your Kickstarter campaign.
Yes. So pretty soon, in the next couple of days, I'm gonna have a Kickstarter that we're gonna push out on social media and email, and I need mass participation. That Kickstarter for the 3.5 million is what I just described with the 10 vets and being able to buy the farm and do what we need to do for our headquarters. That's what that is going to for us to get our start and to get our foothold here and build our foundation. So I'm going to be kicking that out on social media, and I need companies. We are a 501c3. You will see that it's verified on our Kickstarter. So any donation will be a tax deductible write-off for anyone. And the fastest group to reach 1 million was a tech group. A lot of games are being used on Kickstarter, where gamers, like 45 minutes, they made $1 million. So I just hope that we have enough people out there that really care about the vets, and that when they see what I put forward to them in our plan, that they get behind it and they go ahead and support it, because I will not let anybody down. We have a lot of work to do, and it's just starting, Jay.
Outstanding. Yeah, I will make sure that when I get the link for the Kickstarter project, that I will put that in the show notes, and I'll also blast that out over social media, try to get as many people to help out with this campaign as possible.
Thank you.
And anything else before we get into the final three?
No, man, that's it. It's been a great discussion so far.
All right. Let's go here. Question number 1. Who would you like to hear on a future episode of the Veteran Resource Podcast?
Mary Delaney from Operation Shoebox.
Haven't heard of that one.
I got invited down to the villages in Florida this past weekend to do a presentation. And I walked into a room full of retired people, about 300, 400 of them, and they were making care packages to go overseas for veterans. And I just lost it. I couldn't believe the level of support and how organized it was. They sent over 1 million care packages overseas, and they have top-notch operation that's going down there with so many supporters. I think it's even up to 1,500 they have when they're high season.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm going to have to check that out.
Yes.
All right, question number 2. What upcoming project has you fired up right now?
My Kickstarter campaign. Getting this getting the Kickstarter campaign going on. And that is like number 1, to go ahead and get funded and be able to get our team and set our flag in and to say that we're here and to make some noise.
Love it. All right, the final question here, and I think I know where the answer is going to be for this one as well, but if you woke up tomorrow and you found out that somebody made an anonymous donation of $10 million to your organization, what would you do with it?
I would go ahead. I would take that $10 million. I'll say thank you, first of all. I really appreciate that. I really would appreciate that. But actually, Jay, we have done some strategic planning, and that's about the total amount of money that we're going to need to make ourselves sustainable. That money will go off into a pilot 1 program in our phase 1 program, which is to create organic milk, bring it to scale, and also it will fund a project here in Georgia for our agribusiness to make sure that Stag remains sustainable, because that is the number 1 thing that we are going to do, is create a robust farming enterprise where people would be able to purchase products because of the quality and also because of the social responsibility to take care of veterans. And they'll know that at every single step of that process, from when that product was created to when it was executed and put on the shelf, that a veteran worked at every single stop along the supply chain line to get that product to them.
Outstanding. So if anybody out there is listening to this, you got an extra $10 million laying around, you're trying to figure out, where should I put this money? You just heard the amazing things that John could do with it.
Yes.
So for that person, or for anybody else that wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way? They
can email me at john@stagvetsinc.org. That's STAGVETSINC.org. Or go into our website, into the contact, and send us a message.
Outstanding. And I will make sure that I put all of the links that were heard during this into the show notes as well, so that everybody could find them and especially get to the Kickstarter.
Awesome.
It's been great having you on today, John. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's been a good time.
All right. We'll keep in touch.
All right. Take care.
All right, so did I tell you or what? Great interview, wasn't it? Jon has some really powerful and ambitious goals for Stag Vets, but he also has some incredible determination, and he's got the skills that he needs to make this happen. So I really think that this is going to be huge for the veteran community and for the U.S. as a whole when he gets this kicked off with the farming that he's talking about and gets that community built. So I'm pretty excited about it. If you wanted to help out Jon in any way, I'm sure he's looking for people to help with volunteering. He's looking for donations. He's looking for land. So if you can help with any of these things, you can find all of the information to get in contact with Jon and to find out more about Stag Vets at the show notes, which is at veteranpodcast.com/025. So make sure you hit that up and get in contact with Jon, and I will see you in episode 26.